Yeah, okay. All right, so we're talking about, all right, so in the ban phase, when they first pick Maokai, right, the enemy responds with Varus, so they already secure the Red Varus, and then they can respond with X. If they want to be really... Wait, did Sam just fucking hang up? What the fuck, Sam? Sam hung up on me. That doesn't matter. Okay. So in the pick ban phase, they first pick Maokai. Enemy team can actually respond with Varus Poppy if they want to. I think it was a little bit surprising, actually, that Immortals did not... Oh, what? It says invite. Okay, hold on. Hold on. The fuck? Alright, hold on. We're calling Sam. Give me 1 sec, Ika. Oh, man. Sam, are you in the fucking call? Alright. God damn it, Sam. Yeah, Sam. God damn it, he's not picking up. I don't know what's wrong with him. Missed group call. Alright, you're still here with me, Ika, right? Alright, so anyways, they first pick Maokai. It allows for the response of Varus Poppy. And the problem with that is when you're going up against... I'm convinced that if you're going to pick a tank top laner, okay, unless you have a hyper aggro jungler that is very good at establishing vision control inside the jungle or getting deep wards, and you also at the same time have a good support that is good at getting vision control down and like clearing out vision and being very effective. And what I mean by that is not Soraka. So anyways, what ends up happening is, so let's talk about like the 25-minute mark, right? This is where people have 2.5 core items, you know, whatever. So if Varus opts into the Monomune build, or if he just opts into a cooldown reduction build, what ends up happening is the Varus team is able to surrender this turret, they can surrender this turret, they can surrender this turret, okay? So now it's gonna be Red Poppy versus either Nautilus or Maokai, right? And this is the penalty for picking a tank top laner before denying a Red Varus and a Red Poppy. And this is why I talked about that they needed to actually ban the Poppy in the second pick ban phase, because otherwise it just walks into this. And the other option that's even available is actually a Singe pick. A Singe is going to be more aggressive than the Poppy, because it's actually going to open up more split pushing pressure than a Poppy would, even though it's not going to give the same amount of peel for the Varus, and it's not quite going to serve the same exact purpose, in addition to the fact that it's magic damage, so that can get a little bit problematic if you want to fuse in like a Rise pick in mid. So what ends up happening, right, is, so with all of these 3 turrets gone, the Varus team composition doesn't actually need anything. They don't need any of these turrets. There's absolutely no incentive to capture any of these turrets if they don't want to, which we know that this is extremely unlikely. We know that they're going to have a few turrets, all right? So when it comes to Dragon early on, right, there's the option that Varus is going to be relatively strong around the first or the second Dragon because of his poke and because it's just the base scaling and the itemizations, whatever. Later on, he's going to get inherently weaker. But then what ends up occurring, right, is you're going to have situations like what we saw in that game where you have the Maokai up here as the tank, right? And then you have the mid laner, you have the ADC, you have the support, and you have the jungler. And what they need to do is they somehow need to constantly battle for these wards, which is extremely difficult to secure. And if they don't end up getting these wards, then what ends up happening is, as long as the Varus team composition turtles this, okay, and then here in bottom, this is literally going to be their turtle. This is going to be Poppy, okay, because there's no way for Maokai to resist. There's absolutely no way for a blue Maokai to resist a red Poppy. Do we agree? You can just like write in Skype. Okay, so now at this point, you're going to have a Varus, and he's most likely going to be paired with either like Karma or Malzahar or some sort of engage, maybe Zyra, whatever. It is way too difficult to take a Baron against that because he's going to be too safe inside of this little corridor. You can't go over. And this is actually why I tried to reference the Thresh pick in the previous game, because Thresh gives you a workaround to this in a way, where if Varus does go for the piercing arrow, then Thresh can try to hook him as he's on the edge, and it does grant an opening. Because if you try to funnel into this corridor, right, against a Varus, you're going to have a bad time. Especially if their top laner just teleports in. And it's just going to be an endless cycle. And then what ends up happening is if Varus does have Malzahar as his support pick, okay, you can't funnel into that either because the Voidlings provide too much buffer. So what ends up happening is without Mountain Drakes, you don't have the ability to shred down the Baron quick enough, and the piercing arrow covers too much range. So it's not even like you can position safely against Varus. So he's able to rain down from you on the other side of Baron, all the meanwhile being extremely safe. And then if you, how do you get into this side jungle without flank wards? Because you have to get the flank wards in the first place. But you can't really get those flank wards in the first place because Varus is too good inside of condensed terrain. He's too good inside of all these nooks and crannies. It's just way too powerful. With his ultimate and with his arrows. Provides way too much utility for him. So what ends up happening is he's like this fucking ridiculous Jace, or like a ridiculous like old purple Gragas. If you played during that time, I don't know if you did competitively. But so now what ends up happening is Maokai is on a clock in bottom lane because he can't keep up with Poppy. So Poppy just keeps knocking on turrets, and eventually it's going to get to a point where Poppy just ignores Maokai and starts hitting turrets with Iceborne Gauntlet procs, going in and out of minion aggro. And at that point, it requires too much of an investment of resources to send your jungler or your mid laner down to deal with Poppy, because then Poppy just runs away. All the meanwhile, Varus is a 6-item champion, and so is Malzahar. Whereas most of the champions that the opposing team is going to draft is likely to only be 3, 4, or 5-item champs. So now also, if they have a Rise in the mid lane, right? Traditionally, we've seen like the Orianna for the synergy with the Poppy. You can have the Orianna for the synergy with the Singed. Orianna for synergy with whoever the jungler ends up being. If you have the Rise as well, then that adds even more incentive. Because then what ends up happening is if you can delay the Baron long enough, you have an additional 6-item mid lane mage. And then the game is just going to reach 40, 45 minutes. Where now you have a 6-item Varus, you have like a 4-item support Malzahar, and you have a 6-item Rise. And then slowly but surely, you just hold a group formation, right? Like you have Poppy push out one of the lanes, and as 4, okay, you hold a flanks. Do you know what a flanks is? I don't know if you know what a flanks is. Flanks. This is a flanks. So, army formation. Okay, so you hold the flanks. And as you hold the flanks with 6 items, you make them come to you. And you make them come to you, and slowly but surely, you just inch your way up constantly, and you get some wards slowly but surely. Like as and ever so slowly, like, in increments, you get wards. And then as they try to come on to you, then you bring in the teleport from behind. And now they're funneled into you. And you can completely neglect your side lanes, because your side lanes don't even matter. All that's going to happen up here is you're going to have exactly what just happened in the TSM Immortals match and what happened in the Afrika MVP match, where they're going to keep shoving the wave in to top lane, and it just keeps funneling gold to one of the carries. Because if they're playing this correctly, all that they're doing is they are literally, it is literally a circle jerk. Like 4 fucking champions just hugging each other in the red side jungle. It's basically fucking rated X. They never let go of each other. They stay inside of the jungle. They can play 3 sweeper double blue trinket if they really want to. You can put the blue trinket on Poppy. That way Poppy's able to like run up river or something, and blue trinket Baron if necessary. You could play 3 sweeper 2 blue with green smite on jungler to provide extra assistance and warding. You have one of the item slots devoted entirely to control wards, and you just keep turtling this endlessly. And what ends up happening is because they can't penetrate this defense, because they can't just go to mid lane. It's not possible. You would even want to surrender tier 2 mid. Although surrendering tier 2 mid isn't like the best case scenario, it's still not the worst. Because it's very, very difficult for people to fork you into your own red side jungle so that they can get the edge and move up mid lane. Because even from this angle, it still provides a really nice pocket for Varus, right? Like, let's say that they manage to get up mid, and then Varus and co has to come around like this, right? So yeah, they're dealing damage to the turret, but then Varus starts shooting his arrows in a straight line. So now Varus is shooting a straight line, and they back up a little bit, and now they're going to go through the red side jungle again. But that doesn't matter, because now we're going to get into the same exact position that we were in before. They go through the red side jungle, they clear out all the wards. Meanwhile, Poppy down in bot lane, and now Varus and co. assume the position again. It's rinse, wash, repeat. It's almost like martial arts in a way. And so now they try to come into the Baron, and as long as the Varus team comp doesn't go into the river, because look at this position, right? If the Varus team composition, we already know that it's impossible for them to get any kind of wards like this. We know that it's not possible, right? They don't need this. Which then means that Poppy's only wards are ever going to be this, this, or this. All of which are not good. There's absolutely zero reason to come into river. And the other reason that you don't want to come into river is because now this opens up the possibility of, like, if this is a Rengar jungle or something, he now has a lot of, like, we saw it actually earlier today. Now Rengar can actually hop around. This brush, this brush, this brush, this brush. And if you end up getting split up, then it gets even more problematic because you're not holding that flanks. The other problem with this is now fucking retarded wards like this and like this actually become useful. All of a sudden, you can actually have Maokai teleport in from Tribrush with Dead Man's Plate, and you can have him run around and get a flank. That's not natural. You know what I mean? You can even have, you know, fucking Maokai or something have a ward over here for some ungodly fucking reason. He teleports in from this, and he gets a flank. Because now you're out of the pocket. By the time you would be able to get into this, like, nook and cranny, it's already too late. Because now they have too many sandwich options, and you've let them in, and they've surrounded you. It's like a very delicate macro maneuver, but a Red Varus and Red Poppy is disgusting if you pick a tank top laner. I actually, even Poppy aside, I actually think that Red side Varus is just too busted. I think it's too fucking strong. Because the only way that you're ever going to win against a Red side Varus is via a Baron, which he directly prevents you from being able to take, or you need Elder Drake. But around the time that Elder Drake is most likely going to spawn, probably around, like, what? It's not always going to spawn at 35 minutes. It's probably going to spawn like 38, 39, 40. And that's the exact timing window where Varus and Ryze and co. are just going to spike up. Because you're sending minion waves into them endlessly, and they just keep funneling their gold and allocating it directly into the carries. They don't have to put it on the jungler. The jungler's content to just keep eating his wraiths, wolves, you know, golems, and whatever. Support doesn't need any gold, because he's constantly getting his watchers, or his spell thieves, whatever the fuck it is. Poppy's out farming Maokai, because Poppy's putting the clock on Maokai. So what do you do against a red side Varus? The obvious answer is, yeah, you get a flank teleport ward. But that requires you to outplay your opponent. You can't think like that. Not that you can't think like that, but you can't go into things expecting your opponent to make mistakes. It would be a mistake for you to secure a flank teleport ward in this scenario against that kind of a team composition. But the